Welcome, lambs. Welcome to your midweek mini. It is some hours late, but never a dollar short. Have I got a mini for you? In this one, a man stabbed his wife and then enlisted one of his friends to help him get rid of her. Before we begin, if you're new here, my name is Kai and this is Love and Murder, Heartbreak to Homicide. This is your midweek Wednesday episode. Also, this episode and all my episodes are sponsored by my lambs in Patreon, patreon.com/Love and Murder. If you want to be a supporter of Love and Murder and get extras and bonuses and all that good stuff, you can go ahead and subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Love and Murder. Now let's get into this midweek mini. On the evening of March 25th in 2023, a body was discovered in the River Witham in UK. And I don't know if it's Witham, because you know it's Witham, or Witham, but I'm sure that y'all will let me know. So what happened was someone was walking by and noticed that there were plastic bags floating around in the water, and they at first thought it was an animal, but then in one of the bags, I guess they opened it, but I wouldn't, because I would think it was poop or something. But anyways, they opened it, and in one of the bags, they noticed it was a human hand. So, of course, they freaked out and called police. Police came out and recovered 224 remains, 224 pieces of a body. And even as they're putting it together, they saw that it was like not everything, so there was still more. So some of them were never recovered. Now, backstory. Before all of this was discovered and all of this investigation started, police had been called to the apartment of 28-year-old Nicholas Metson and his 26-year-old wife, Holly Bramley. Now, this was only 12 miles down the road from this river. They were called to this house because someone had reported that she had been missing. They hadn't seen her in a while, so they just asked for a welfare check. Holly and Nicholas were believed to have, and I say believed to because this is literally what was reported, but they were believed to have met at Boston College in 2016 and they were married in 2021. But the marriage started breaking down according to family and friends. So this is now 2023. So when officers arrived at the apartment, or the flat if you're British, or my mom, they noticed the smell of bleach and ammonia, and they also noticed bloodstains in the bathroom, in the bedroom, in the kitchen. They saw a saw. They saw a saw on a towel, and they saw bloodstained sheets in the bathroom and a large bloodstain on the bedroom floor. Now, I don't know why this guy just wasn't arrested or at least brought into the police department and they got a search warrant for the house or something, but they see all this and instead they questioned Nick and he told them that Holly had left the house with her mental health support group. And he was even cracking jokes saying, you know what? Matter of fact, she may, quote, be hiding under the bed. He also told police that Holly had abused him, showing police officers a bite mark on his arm. So now police are investigating because what he's saying, she can't be found, and look at all this blood in the house. To me, the investigation would have started after I got him out of the way because to me, I would have thought he would have fled the scene. But that's just me. You got to go by whatever the law says, and I'm not a cop. So during the investigation, they noticed that she was last seen alive using CCTV footage on March 17th, 2023. That's because she was seen going into her apartment. There was no other trace of her anywhere, and with all this evidence mounting against him, he was arrested on April 5th and charged with murder and perverting the course of justice and obstructing a coroner. So while they continue investigating, they realized that the bloodstains in the household, in the Bramley household, was actually Holly's. And I would say that I could tell you that, but you can't really jump to conclusions because it could have been anything. Maybe he hit a deer. I think there's deer in England, yeah? I know that sounds really stupid, but I'm thinking about it and I've never heard of deer crashes like, you know, in the US, how you always hear of a deer crashing into a car or somebody hitting a deer. I've actually never heard or seen a news report of a deer hitting anybody in England. But when you go on fox hunts, you go hunt deer, right? Or is it quail? I can't remember. And some people might be thinking I'm really stupid right now, but they are not everywhere in the world. I just can't remember if they are in England. So my UK listeners, please school me on this because I'm not going to look it up. I might, but I still want to hear from you. Either way, you can't jump to conclusion because they could have hit something while they were driving and I don't know, for some reason brought it back home and cut it up and I don't know. So you couldn't jump to conclusion that that was her blood. So during the investigation, they also searched his cell phone and found that he made a bunch of searches on Google, including, quote, how to get rid of a dead body. Because he went to the School of Love and Murder, which says, y'all can say it with me because we already know this. We've been saying this for how many years now? If you're going to commit a murder, make sure you have as much evidence on and around your person as possible. Make sure you do internet searches on your phone, on your computer, on your laptop. If you have a smart TV, do it on that. If you have a smart fridge, even do the search on that. Make sure you tell everybody you know and everybody you don't. So apparently he went to the School of Love and Murder. So on his Google search on his phone, he had, quote, how to get rid of a body, quote, what benefits can I get if my wife dies? And quote, does God forgive murder? Did you actually search Google for that answer? Are you serious? Wow. They also found that he sent a text message to one of his school friends named Joshua Hancock, who was 28 and lived in Walnut Close in Waddington. He offered him 50 pounds. 50 pounds. Let's see what that is in US dollars. As of April 2024, 50 pounds is $62.27 USD. He offered him $62.27, saying this is for help with a, quote, job. Now, he didn't say, hey, come help me, murder my wife or something. He didn't say that. He said a job. So maybe his friend was like, okay, but I'm guessing as your friend, when I get here to find the job, no, absolutely not. No. And I'm going to tell you some bullshit where you won't kill me too. And I could back out of the apartment and on my mad dash to my car and going 100 down the highway away from this crazy person, I'm calling the police. They also noticed that Nick had previous offenses against other partners in 2013, 2016, and 2017. So apparently he has a history of some kind of domestic violence. They also found that after Holly was murdered, Nick was using her Facebook account and messaging her friends and trying to trick them into thinking she was still alive. He would message and say that, I left Nick. This was the last straw, stuff like that. Anything to make them think that she left him and then moved to Manchester. Then while he's doing this, he's also sending himself money from her bank account. How are you going to justify that? I don't know. She left me. She told all her friends she left me, but then I guess she just felt really bad for me. So she started sending me money because she wanted me to succeed in life. How are you going to justify that, Nick? Also, through CCTV, they saw that Nick was moving large amounts of bags from his apartment, which he lived on the 14th floor. So they went from the apartment to the elevator or the lift and then to his car. And this was all on March 25th. So, there's not much more evidence that you need to compile. This went to trial. And Joshua pled guilty to disposal of a corpse with intent to obstruct or prevent a coroner's inquest. And at first, Nick was saying, I'm not guilty. I didn't do this. She left. Maybe somebody else did it and just doctored all the street cameras and dumped buckets of blood in my house. I don't know, but I didn't do it. So at first, he pled not guilty. But during a hearing in February 2024, he pled guilty to his charges. Now, at his sentencing hearing on April 5th, 2024, prosecutor Gordon Aspden said that police found some marks on Holly's body, and he said the mark, quote, suggests she was being restrained in a headlock. He also said it's likely that Nick stabbed his wife multiple times in the bedroom, then dismembered her in the bathroom, and then stored her body in the kitchen larder. What's a larder? Let's find out. Okay, according to my search, it says a larder is a cool area for storage of food which keeps best at lower temperatures. The term larder comes from the fact that they were originally used to store raw meat which had been covered in lard to preserve it. Nowadays, larder storage can house milk, butter, bread, pastry, cooked meats, and any other type of food you'd like to stow away. Now, I've never heard of that. Is that just a British thing, or do we have this over here in the US? Because I've honestly never heard of that. Have y'all heard of this? So anyway, that's where he stored her body parts. Prosecutor Asp then went on to say that the, quote, twisted and barbaric way that Nick cut up his wife into at least 224 separate pieces went, quote, far beyond what was needed to move the body. He also told the court that some of her remains have never been found, including parts of her heart. So he chopped up her heart even, and even those have not been found. During this same court hearing, Holly's mother, Annette Bramley, took the stand and told Nick that he had condemned the entire family to, quote, a life sentence of grief. The heinous way in which she was murdered and dismembered has left us in such unimaginable pain. She called him a, quote, evil monster, and said that he convinced Holly that her family was abusive when that wasn't the case. She also went on to describe Holly as, quote, beautiful, kind, and loving, and said that, quote, her last moments will be filled with pain, and that will haunt us forever. Her life was taken by someone who quite clearly has no regard for human life. We were prevented from seeing Holly in the years leading up to her murder. We were prevented from seeing her before her death, and due to this monstrous actions, he made sure that we were prevented from seeing her after her death. Holly will always be in our hearts. We will never forget her and the impact she had on our lives. She then told him, quote, you stole Holly's life in March 2023, but you stole her from our life many years before that. You took her from a caring and loving family, and on the occasions when she did make her way back home, or when you told her she wasn't good enough or pretty enough, you lured her back using the one thing she wanted most in the world, to be a mother. We are shattered people who have lived the last 12 months as shells of the people we were before this. We have lost all hope of ever getting our Holly home. You carelessly took her life and threw her away like she was nothing, when to us she was everything. Our hurt is so raw, and it likely will always be. To lose her in such a cruel and brutal way has affected us so deeply. Many of us have needed specialist help just to get by. I truly regret the day you ever laid eyes on her. Now, Nick's defense, Allison Summers, said that he has autism. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Let's blame autism. Okay. There are a bunch of autistic people out there who don't murder their wives. Okay, but anyways, his defense, Allison Summers, said that he has autism spectrum disorder, and this would impede his self-control, and that prison will come with, quote, certain added difficulties for him. You know what he could have done? Not murdered his wife. She continues, this is someone who has autism at a moderate level. It is a significant, combined with his learning difficulties, neurological disorder. This is a young man with these particular problems, and what is clear is that this is someone who is, despite certain appearances, isolated socially and operates in bubbles for the most part. He doesn't make friends and is incapable of seeing the world from the perspective of anyone but himself. For all the horror of what this man did, he is nevertheless himself a vulnerable man, and that is why Holly was his designated career. One can be both vulnerable and a perpetrator of something quite awful. Prison, being as difficult as it is for many people, will come with significant difficulties to him. You know what else is difficult for some people? Getting stabbed multiple times by the one who says they love you. That was really difficult as well. She goes on to say, quote, It will not have escaped the family that he does not seem to have demonstrated with any remorse. With his autism and other disorders, he has a highly restrictive capacity for remorse. He has profound difficulties to empathize with others and read the feelings of others. So he is autistic and he has Asperger's, which I know people with both, and they haven't murdered people. Okay. Joshua's defense, Raglan Ashton, came out and said that, quote, Mr. Hancock bitterly regrets his involvement and the part he played in the incident. His involvement was limited. It begins with a number of messages sent to him by Nick asking him to do a job for him. In my submission, he is persistent in terms of that request, and the message is followed by a number of further messages. He repeats that request. I'm sorry. Pause right here. I don't give a good crap how many times, even if it was my best friend, text me. I don't care how many times I get a text. I don't care if you keep texting me at 12 a.m., 1 a.m., you're not letting me sleep. I will just block you. I am not helping you cut up and move anybody. So that was a bullshit defense. Raglan goes on to say, quote, Mr. Hancock did not know what that job entailed. He was coming into an activity that wasn't of his making. I mean, but when you found out what wasn't of your making and you did find out what happened, then you could have just left. But now you went into it and now it is of your making. There are also mental health issues in the respect of Mr. Hancock. Oh my God. Is this the new thing? I just want to, you know what? I recently found out that I do have something and I don't share it with people just because of this. You go online and everybody has something. And now this seems like, and look, don't jump on me. I'm just saying what it looks like online. Some people even joke that they have DID. Some people joke that, you know, they hallucinate. They may have schizophrenia. And it looks like in the legal aspect, now everybody's blaming a mental health issue on why something happened. So this is why, like, I finally found something out about myself and it makes so much sense and it makes me feel better about myself and my life because everything fell into place. But I don't want to share it. It's more about who's going to take it seriously because everybody says the same thing. Look at this. You're telling me Nick has autism and Asperger's, so it's okay for him to murder people. He didn't know what he was doing. That's not what autism or Asperger's is about. And now you're saying that Joshua has mental health issues. And, you know, you have to understand he has mental health issues. So when he came to the house and saw this dead body here, that's why he helped cut up this person and helped dispose of it. Seriously? Oh God. Speaking of autism and ADHD, here it goes. Here goes Mr. Raglan. Quote, there are also mental health issues in the respect of Mr. Hancock. He has autism, ADHD, and has been classified as lower than average in cognitive functioning. The reason that I just went off on a little rant about this is because people who actually have these problems, it's like, it's not a joke. And this is why it's probably never going to be taken seriously. It's not a joke. It's not something fun. You don't want mental health issues. You don't want to sit here and just like, I guess it's fun to say, I have mental health issues. Look at me. Pay attention to me. But if you actually have it, it's not fun. It's really not fun. Imagine actually being a hallucinating schizophrenic. Does that sound fun to you? Or having ADHD and just trying to sit in class, for instance, and learn the same way as people who don't have ADHD, because, you know, schools don't usually cater to people who have ADHD. They cater to people who can learn and sit there and sit still and not zone out and everything like that. Does that sound fun to you? And now, how many cases have I done where the lawyers are trying to blame mental health as to why something happened? So now, how is this going to be taken seriously when somebody who actually has mental health issues, like somebody who maybe was going through a schizophrenic breakdown, and I keep using schizophrenia because this is the one that I'm familiar with. I know there's other mental health issues that could cause this, But if they're having a mental break and they really are not seeing what's there, and this is really the defense in court, it is really, this happened due to insanity. This is going to start becoming less and less believable because the judge is like, oh my God, this is the 8th case I've had today where you say mental health issues. Guilty. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's just bullshit. And I have a feeling I'm about to get a lot of backlash on this, but I'm fine. Look, if you give me constructive criticism, maybe I said something wrong. Maybe I said something, I don't know, ignorant, or you can literally give me constructive criticism on something to fix, then let me have it. Seriously, let me have it. If you're going to tell me some bullshit, I don't want to hear it. So, okay, let's continue. So he has autism, ADHD, and a lower than average cognitive function. So when he got to the house and found a dead body, that caused him to move forward and help him to dismember a body and dispose of it, according to his defense lawyer. Quote, he acknowledges the pain and anguish felt by the family, and he is quite appalled. So Judge Simon Hurst heard all of this and said, quote, it will be a source of enormous frustration to the family of Holly that they will never be told how and why Holly died. Because remember, the prosecutors presented evidence suggesting that Nick probably stabbed his wife multiple times in the bedroom, probably dismembered her in the bathroom, and probably stored her body in the kitchen larder, and nobody gave a reason as to why. So all of this was just maybe that's what happened. We have the end results. We know he did it because here's all the evidence, but we don't know how it was done or why it was done. So everybody reconvened back at the Lincoln Crown Court for sentencing on Monday, April 8th, 2024. And Judge Simon Hurst also was over this court, and he said that it was, quote, plain that Holly was a much-loved woman. So Nick was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 19 years and 316 days. Judge Hurst said, quote, it is remarkable how well everybody has behaved in this case with enormous emotional difficulties. And he said this to the court, everybody who was dealing in the court. I guess, people weren't screaming out or whatever. So he was thanking the court for how well they behaved. Joshua was sentenced to 2 years and a minimum of 6 months in prison. He was also sentenced for some other crimes, including attempted sexual communications with a child and possession of drugs. And this all increased his total sentence to 3 years and 3 months. During this sentencing, Holly's family also talked about her experiences with Nick and how he was coercive, controlling, and manipulative. And they also talked about the breakdown of her marriage. But in the end, he got what the mother asked for, which she said she had a life sentence, and she hoped that he got a life sentence. And he got that. What do y'all think about this? And I'm really completely prepared for y'all ripping me a new butthole for my rant. And as usual, if you are experiencing domestic violence, call the domestic violence hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Always try and at least talk to somebody. I know it's so easy to say seek help, and it's not that easy to get help or to even go out and seek it, but you can actually talk to somebody about what you're going through. 1-800-799-7233 or go to thehotline.org. All calls are toll-free and confidential, and the hotline is available 24/7 and in more than 170 languages. And that is all I have for you. I'm going to go ahead and put out a poll question asking you if you think the mental health defense was a reasonable defense for the actions of these two individuals. Do you think mental health had anything to do with what they did? Because I personally don't. Because I know a lot of people who have autism. I don't know personally, but like I follow somebody whose podcast that I listen to who has Asperger's. I know people with mental health issues. And then I just found out that I had something. And again, I don't want to say it because it sounds like I'm just like, oh, well, that's your excuse for everything. So I kind of keep it to myself, but to me, it puts everything into perspective. The things that I was battling with my whole life, just trying to ask myself, why can't I be like XYZ? And, and it just makes sense. So it just helped me be at peace with myself. Knowing this, it helped me be at peace with myself. But, I know people with ADD and ADHD, which now is just all ADHD, but, yeah, they don't go out and murder people. I know people who have, low cognitive abilities or whatever, however they put it, and they don't go out and murder people. So, to me, that defense was absolute 150,000% bullshit. But that's my poll question. What do y'all think about that defense? Do you think it was a good defense? Do you think it was a plausible defense? Yes or no? Since this is already coming out late, I will read your comments in next week's midweek mini. I'll read last week's comments and this week's comments all in next week's midweek mini. Also, I didn't post Tuesday's episode. I have it recorded and I was going through and editing it, but then stuff happened and I didn't get finished editing it. So I'm going to put out the Tuesday episode. So you're going to hear in it say, oh, the True Crime Tuesday, but it was supposed to go out on Tuesday, but I'm putting it out Thursday. So you're still not missing your episode. And that is all that I have for you today. I want to thank you for your patience with my crazy, crazy schedule of love and murder, but still you all hang with me. Trust me, trust and believe. That means so much to me. Thank you so much for dealing with the hectic that is Kai. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.